Hi everyone, come up, come up. Perfect spots, yeah. Thank you so much for coming, everyone, to celebrate Le Grand K with us. So tonight's readings and performances are based on Le Grand K, the book, which is, it's an obituary. It's an anthology of responses by artists and writers to the recent dematerialisation of the kilogram. We launched Le Grand K last Monday, on the 20th of May, on what is known as World Metrology Day. And World Metrology Day is something that has been celebrated every year since 1875. Is the anniversary of the signing of the Meter Convention. Yet this year it was special because of the redefinition of the several measurement units, and well, one of which was the kilogram. Le Grand K takes its name from the nickname that's given to the international prototype of the kilogram, which is a cylinder of platinum-iridium alloy that had been held on the outskirts of Paris and evolved under 3 environmentally controlled bell jars for over 100 years, up until last Monday, when the measurement unit's definition got changed to a set of instructions and equations to do with the Planck constant and the electric current. So now the value of the kilogram has become unanchored from its localized physicality, and now it can be calibrated in a lab practically in any corner of our known universe. And so what we wanted to do for our Le Grand K, for the book and the events, is to commemorate the physical to linguistic and performative shift. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who has put so much work and love into making all of this happen, both the book and the events. All of the readings and the performances that are going to be happening today are by the people who have contributed to the book, which you can find just over there. And of course, thank you to my co-curators and co-editors of the book, Carol Tendall and Andrea Cora. Thank you to Favash for creating our beautiful visual identity, and to the Science Museum for hosting us tonight. And yeah, I hope you enjoy Le Grand K in all of its material and immaterial manifestations. Thank you.
Some desires must be indulged in only the most careful of measures. Drugs taught an entire generation of American kids the metric system, after all. A knowing dosage can be a control tab, but some measures are pleasures, taken for themselves alone. Tracing our perimeters in chalk on the concrete, or in pen on a flying carpet cut from a thick roll of paper, we were little. backs to the wall, flat hands holding a tide line above our heads, fiercely debating the fairness of shoes and the thickness of soles. Only then could we attend to the world. How many steps from my house to yours? How deep will the water swallow this stick? How many fence posts will this string link? Counting and cataloguing, navigating a world of mysterious proportions. Puberty could be a comparative analysis in changing dimensionality. Girls studying buds and cups, boys checking lengths with anxious intrigue. Eye up, size up, square up, muscle up. Hungrily, sexuality fills out against fascinatingly charted territory. Somewhere in the modern family home, you would be likely to find a corner etched with pencil scratchings. From this data, repeatedly annotated with dates and a consistent selection of first names, it was clear that this was a record of household members, their rise and fall. Some extended annually, while others gently compressed. The nuclear family plotted themselves as graph points on paintwork, sketching a skyline of their own growth and latter recession. This carefully charted constellation indicated a desire to document and to seek differentials. Members of the clan aspired to see themselves relative to one another, marking their own measure of belonging. Imagine a world where nations are united, where energy flows across the borders, and objects housed in little boxes traverse each hemisphere, speaking a universal language of width and height and breadth. Imagine a plug slipping with blissful perfection into a socket it has never met, and yet they fit so right, so tightly. Imagine a world where these things are made to be. In the days of Napoleon, the revolutionaries wanted to share. They saw that quantities were variable, and they saw that this was unfair. They decided that measurement should be a public resource. No more tyrannical irregularity, no more kissing the king's feet with measuring sticks. The world, the whole world, would finally be for all men, for all time. They said, man the measures, demand the measures, unhand the measures. Hands are not enough now, nor feet, nor any part that modifies its size per person. No enthroned body will be our baseline. We want equality, a precision spreading freedom across an earth that breathes its own shape. "200 years ago, two French astronomers traveled to Barcelona. Their names were Delambre and Méchain. They walked to Dunkirk, measuring all the way inch by inch. It took 7 long years, and the journey was not easy. Delambre and Méchain were accused, imprisoned, scorched by sun and frozen by snow. They were very nearly killed. Still, they strove on, seeking the meridian of the earth. And once it was decided, they divided up neatly into 2 million pieces to make the meter. Then, they turned this new length into a box and found a kilogram in 1 cubic deciliter of water. But the story does not end here, or happily. At the very start of his journey, Méchain made a small mistake in his sums and carried it unnoticed all the way to France. The meter went on to change the world, but Méchain realized what he had done. He had broken his promise. The meter was not perfect. And the knowledge drove him wild with guilt. 5 years later, Machan returned to the Spanish coast, but there, the poor man fell ill. He died far from home, with no hope of ever unmaking his mistake, heartbroken. Keeping reality stable is a hard task, accommodating only the sturdiest representatives. Proudly anchoring a new reality, the prototype was a fine talisman, a shining example, warding off debate and disarray. Nobody would dare to overthrow an officiated kilo. Le Grand K reigned supreme. Materials were stable, weighings were ceremonial, guards were loyal. And yet, carelessness slipped in somewhere. Our chaste cylindrical touchstone lost an entire eyelash worth of weight. As the officiator of reality, Le K could not change by changing. No, the world itself became heavier in mourning, an unacceptable tragedy. How could we trust ourselves? How could we ever ally ourselves with alloys again? No, we sought higher ground. We vowed to transcend this messiness, to base our units on the fabric of the universe, on the heavens. Because when the earth is not enough, one must look further. It is precise to say that a meter is the length of the path traveled by light in vacuum during a time interval of 1,299,792,458th of a second. If you type the measure of all things into Google, it will suggest to you man, the measure of all things. If you take the suggestion, there will be a YouTube video. There will be a man in a tweed suit and an RP accent saying, "These churches don't try to crush us with size and weight as all God-directed architecture does. Everything is adjusted to make each man more conscious of his powers as a complete moral and intellectual being." This is 1969. Kenneth Clark is presenting civilization to us, that is, civilization singular. Here, Clark is showing us the Renaissance and telling us it can all be summed up by one famous phrase: man is the measure of all things. Specifically, Clark means the great men with their air of contained vitality and confidence which you often find in founding fathers of a civilization. To suit such solid blokes, Renaissance architecture was light, highly measured, complementing the scale of these males in its perfection. And apparently, this proportion could have saved us if we had really believed it. But where would be the rest of man, the mess of man? And what about the rest of us? Olympic rhetorician Protagoras said, "Man is the measure of all things." His phrase has been hijacked as a slogan for dominion, but we're talking about the first recognized relativist. This ancient Athenian believed that every argument had two opposing logics, both true to their makers. One might be better, more virtuous, but each person decides their own truth. Of course. What could be the measure of all things except measurement itself? We once wanted a touch point we could touch, but that was the precise problem. Earthly things have other ideas about permanence. Still, we cannot afford to stand still on constants. There are clocks to set, drugs to dose, rockets to launch. This is drama of the highest order, of the highest orderliness. Luckily, the kilogram has now been safely locked onto photons, translated through electromagnetism and flattened, with the help of Planck, into an equation, a line of logic. This is the Halley's Comet of metrology. This is Odysseus shooting an arrow through the holes of a dozen axe heads. This is an ecstasy of metaphors, from metrologists on the brink of a blissful redefinition. This is a passion of belief. We wanted better, and we think we finally found it. This time, will it be enough?
And that tenderness was too much. All that's left to do now is participate as reasoned, professional and respectful members of the arrangement. If weapons of mass destruction is the same as World Metrology Day, then weapons of metrology destruction is the same as World Mass Day. The weight, the significance of coincidence, the happenstance of shared abbreviation, the inadvertent association are always generative as this punctuation mark. Succinct, precise, and well-formed, like a sextoy designed by John Ive, like a board marker or a golf handle, like an umbrella, a toy torpedo, a designer tampon, an insulin injector, a torch, a pen, like a speaker or a traffic cone. Accidental geometry is always an excuse for a fresh, shiny, brand new, elegant theory. It germinates right at the porous, leaky border between sublating and subletting. Overwarm and distant, hollow under the soft, short-circuit desired chin, pre-formatted methodical intimacies, articulated in relation to some of the key concerns raised in the unit. Excessive self-inflection and understanding of creative economy, with a view on a car park. Then silence. I will lead, in, under, towards, before. Those positions are an exception notwithstanding. Then silence. A request to unhinge an intensely tuned attention span through collaboration with external partners. Like most days, World Metrology Day has a website, www.worldmetrologyday.org. There is a small orange windowless house in the top left corner that shortcuts to the homepage. It announces the theme for World Metrology Day 2019, the International System of Units, fundamentally better. The changes in several measurement units taking effect on the 20th of May are driven by the latest research into quantum phenomena, and are expected to meet the needs of future users for many years to come. The introduction gives a quick historical overview of the project. The original aim of the UNIT convention, the worldwide uniformity of measurement, remains as important today as it was in 1875. Before signing off with warm regards, the WMD team. The following day, there were no accidents. SI stood for International System of Units. BIPM stood for International Bureau of Weights and Measures. OIML stood for International Organization of Legal Metrology. CGPM stood for General Conference on Weights and Measures. CIPM stood for International Committee for Weights and Measures. CGPM was the supreme authority of BIPM. CIPM was the supreme authority of CGPM. At the same time, CC stood for consultative committees. These committees were CCAUV, Consultative Committee for Acoustics, Ultrasound and Vibration, CCEM, Consultative Committee for Electricity and Magnetism, CCL, Consultative Committee for Length. CCM, Consultative Committee for Mass and Related Quantities. CCPR, Consultative Committee for Photometry and Radiometry. CCQM, Consultative Committee for Amount of Substance, Metrology and Chemistry and Biology. CCRI, Consultative Committee for Ionizing Radiation. CCT, Consultative Committee for Thermometry. CCTF, Consultative Committee for Time and Frequency. CCU, Consultative Committee for Units. Some things are possible and desirable, while others are only possible, desirable, and inconsequential. If reflection is to be total, there must be no diversion of the evanescent wave. But if chapped lips are lubricated with a long round kiss, there is a delayed possibility of misunderstanding. Frustrated total internal reflection is occasionally abbreviated as frustrated TIR. It can be observed by looking down into a glass of water held by an ungloved hand. If the glass is held tightly, the ridges of the fingerprints interact strongly with the evanescent waves, allowing their outlines to be seen through the otherwise totally reflecting glass air surface. A loose grip will fail to produce a noticeable effect. Extra dry skin may also become an obstacle. Imperfect vision should not be an issue if corrected appropriately. Supervision Focus Dailies All Day Comfort Daily Disposable. Johnson & Johnson 1 Day Acuvue Moist Lacquer Disposable. 1 Day Acuvue True Eye with Hydroclear. Acuvue Oasis 2 Weekly Disposable. Alcon Dailies Aqua Comfort Plus. Or Aqua Comfort Advanced 2 Weekly Disposable. Comprehensibility donates pie charts to food banks and is interchangeable with but and quantum tunneling as a space filler. PMQ are placeholders, and all that matters is that there is no contradiction. Accumulation in line with targets and small-fronted appendix prose, convulsing transpositions of bulging taxonomies, under-ejaculate nomenclature of words and objects. There is no material synthetical circumstance under which any of it would hold true, and therefore offend anyone living or dead. Any peak position represents a transition state. Make it wet, soak it in cold, flaky sap, scrape the overflow, squeeze it, freeze it, soap it, sand it, seal it, punch it, lick it, label it, and safely store it away. There is no room for thermonuclear gossip in this windowless house.
Where shall I start? Way 1. There was no notion of having fallen behind, but we were routinely invited to catch up. On my way, X implied some kind of movement. Sorry, I guess I just miss you. I miss you. I'm going to miss you. Sometimes words are driverless cars in a jacked up thorax. Did I really say that? It's not easy to maneuver parcels of chatter through 3-point turns. Even on the bluest day, a kick is a kick. But if the sky's a table, then slather me red. They say cute has its own temporality. Over in the corner, Julienne peels off her sodden outer layers. Kay lights a cigarette at the wrong end and waits for the air to grow. As for me, I just want to be the third wheel I know I can be, a 6-star martyr, forever tagging shadows. Come tonight instead, I'll show you London between my teeth. We can brood over a slippery feed. The new one is my favourite one. Does it have to be true that bone meets bone through the polite buffer of cartilage? One thing always leads to another. Every time I say I'm sick of the sound of progress, a handheld leaf blower starts up outside. Why not allocate time to practicing nothing? Stretch it out, knead it, pummel it, expand it. Get some proper clothes for doing nothing in. I found a handful of discoveries and recycled them. They were tucked in the folds of the underbelly of revelation. Words like crisis. I'm so sorry to hear that pours out like single cream. In a parallel scenario, someone asks, well, I sit back. I count the ways breath escapes my face. I watch the hind legs of desire get sawn off. I don't sit back, I'm perched in 2 or more minds on anybody's fence. When did choosing between a soft pat of butter and low-fat spread supersede the breakneck urgency of how may I help you? Wait, who put dairy in my chronology? Age-old questions of how we could be sneak through a laminator. The narrative is so glossed over, we can see our faces in it. Simultaneously, not far from here, 2 torsos consider their reporting tone, whether it matches the scale of things. Other stories hang in the balance. Take the whole victorious loaf and keep the crusts. I like to keep the bottom of my pockets torn, thanks. In a parallel scenario, I ask, well, you send me worms in a tin first class, instead of a coagulated heap of gelatinous conclusions, instead of a ripe, tactile skin against smothering opacity, instead of a breezy freeway where one way means yes. Some days we coordinate our trains to pass each other, then pretend not to look. The future is where we talk about the things we think about while we talk about other things. By the time we get there, our intentions will almost certainly have been ruined by unprecedented amounts of spirit, or the wrong kind, or a sudden, inexplicable sag in the tautness of 2 cheeks.
Okay, Mikey, here we go.
I used to dream of eating,
Chewing, mostly.
rolling
over the stones
in
and the earth in my mouth.
musty heat, smell leaking from my skin.
Swallowing up more than I could ever hold. When we awoke that morning, I was like half alive, and he licked the perimeter of my body, make sure I still existed.
A luxury.
Luxurious.
7 minutes.
It took 7.5 minutes.
That's how things were.
That's how things were. Checking edges.
Heaviness. Feet. Chairs. Your last pair.
clean trousers.
Days walking tentatively over moss. That's when our weight became a curse. Fuck. The first evaporations were media myths. Celebrities, homicides, transforming into collective hallucinations, religious prophecies, realizations, zealots sowing panic, and us collectively
rolling our eyes. 40 days, I returned from an overnight shift heavy with exhaustion, still buzzing, full of cortisol, collapsed in the overstuffed sofa.
Of your sofa. Looking around that empty room.
My eyes landed on the ottoman. Eyes vibrating. Not there. Colors. Find. Pulsating.
Then it was gone. No debris, no sound, no ectoplasm. The ottoman went.
Line from the sofa. They said to
They told me to start collecting objects.
I would
I
never
would
again
never
sleep
sleep
alone.
alone again. I
Piled my
stuffed
body with
books
books
and
and blankets, hair dryer, letters, paperwork, unused blocks of clay, weren't
all
much.
over my body. They weren't much.
I could feel my body. Heartbeats filled into my ears. Sleep. Capsules. Travel time. Exponentially. Doubling our speed every 5 seconds. Can you hear the sound? The squeezing and stretching of space. After vibrations, changing. Her body's being galaxies, black holes, dead stars. Under our skin, inverting us. The swirl dense objects. Islands banging on the universe like a mallet.
Precocious destruction. They started opening pop-up pain parlors where patrons could pay what they could to verify their own existence with little metal shards. That's where I met you. First time eyes met, huh?
Rolling my arm on a wheel of nails, feeling the gentle pricks like goosebumps. I used to get those during the Scandinavians.
Acting at the theatre. Guess you and I were
We were uneasy.
and our eyes gave us.
Our eyes gave us escape. You
Didn't you?
we
We
legged
legged
it out the exit,
Down here.
down the street.
Out into the shops fronted street.
2 kilometers later, and we collapsed into a heap of heaving chests, and sweaty arms, and tangled legs, and scents of mud, and sweat, and musk. Love, cool emanations from the breathing earth calmed us, and we melted into one another. We've been here for years and years. Too much. Too fast.
Questions like that don't have any validity, so they just evaporated from our minds like Paul from the grocery shop last Tuesday.
Lying in the bed, half your body over mine, you told me stories from the times before with your fingers. I opened my eyes and suddenly I'm vertical, in a box, an elevator, going down. In the ether, it creaks alive and falls downwards. I begin to feel it. Vibration of my cells, moving every atom down, down, becomes brighter. Don't cry, as it seems the universe burst open around me. I could feel the waves emanating from the space between the stuff in which I'm made. Clap. Emptiness. I can feel myself expanding, filling the space of the box. Then further. Humans are better than creatures. Better than me.
You've got the better half. You've got the better of me. Now fuck that.
I fall and rise.
I fall and return.
Fall and rise and rise.
Returning.
1,000 trillion years.
Trillion years.
I could feel the labyrinth walls erect themselves gradually.
It's clear it wouldn't be a small prick of a needle anymore. In freefall, lines started to grow around me. Grey, building itself, streaming white mists of anticipation or expectation, what could happen next, and space slowly still collapsing from vast
expanses to right angles and curves, small choices, left, right, up,
rarely a third choice. Joy
and spontaneity, excitement, foot misplaced,
a foot misplaced
was weighed down,
becomes a noxious gas, sucking downward. Is this free fall?
no longer in free fall.
I
Lost
think
in
I'm getting lost.
a maze, left or right, gray walls, few windows.
Start anew. I remember somewhere there's a safety detector, but maybe there's the best chance of electrocution by eels and stuff. Or like someone having a change of heart. What could possibly come next? Is there going to be a box? I'm going to have to face a cordon falling into a tesseract. Pity. Trying to figure out what to do with a limp little bag.
Forgive me.
In
Chaotic movements. I coordinate any and all chords where I want them to be. Crackling and roaring into my head, stalks of stimulants. I don't know. Is this photons? Fable? Heaviness of our bones, our blood, mass connected tissues, webs of tendons, ligaments, veins, soft tissues, cells. We're always aware of the pumping of our collective.
Well, not always, but
Maybe. envy.
Hello and good evening. We are researchers from the New Week Association, an organisation that was established in the UK in the early 2000s by an interdisciplinary group of researchers investigating methods effective in counteracting psychological and emotional disturbances brought about by the advancement of an economic system underpinned by neoliberalism.
We're here to read short extracts from the book These Are Not My Days, Conditions of Impermanence, and talk about some of our research at the Institute. The book supported key lines of inquiry for the New Week Association as an autobiographical investigation into what does or does not create who we are, how we do own or share our reality, what is given and what is open for creation. It considers the days of the week, for example, how they might frame our lives and inform our reality as we step out into the world. A quote from the book: "What freedoms does this allow, or what energy is invested into the names we call our days? These days that have been named, spelled out, their spells cast into existence by the Babylonian and Sumerian calendars, counting the motion of the moon and the growing and trading of crops. These days with names that make present the histories of cultural deities and celebrate the planets above in our everyday conversations below, whilst summoning energies for days of gathering and rest."
The New Week Association, or NWA, recognizes that the names of the days of the week activate pre-assigned markers to experience and consequently provides a necessary framework for the refusal of such markers. Best described as a practice that performs a non-evasive, self-administering cognitive procedure, NWA adjusts or refocuses reality for positive reinforcement of self. The governing principles of NWA ask the question, what happens when you allow yourself to play with, reorganize, or question the structures, beliefs, or assumed material of the world around you? What might be possible if we make conscious the quantum qualia, the ripple effect of unquestioned or unseen structures we live inside? And how might this affect the psycho-emotional space, forming a assigned set of frequencies influencing our every moment? The energy fields of current cultural modes and methods conduct a dissonance that mutates these conversations. Thus, NWA as a practice becomes an invaluable approach for offsetting the undesirable effects by reassigning problematic frequencies to procure a reality more harmonious to consciousness.
Biomolecular structures operate via these frequencies, authorizing connections that permit energies to fabricate and influence not only the psycho-emotional and material realms, but also the celestial. Consequently, disclosing that we are not single unitary beings, but relative in many parts, omnidirectional in conversation with both the internal and external, multiplicity within a system talking to itself. NWA exposes the ability to hold structures whilst adapting to novelty, and also to be creative with the environment, making optimum use in development of both the internal and external worlds, generating a feedback loop of interaction. With regular use of this adaptive practice, subjects transpose to become part of a wider system that is in its nature more efficient and responsive to change, thus resulting in significantly less exposure to the brutal and violent impositions of traumatic change within unyielding structures that attempt to uphold obsolete realities. Therefore, subjects feel more free, more compassionate, safe and secure in the evolving frameworks of human experience.
In 2019, researchers at the New Week Association started investigating the use of sonic matter for the effective energy displacement and replacement. Using frequency reassignment energy theory, or FET, as a framework, our colleagues were able to identify specific sonic sequences that had potent and desirable effects on energy field perceptions when subjects were sonically immersed in these sequences. We have a set of these sequences that we would like to share with you so that you can experience and feel the benefits of the potential of NWA.
So now, find a comfortable position in this space to listen and allow yourself to close your eyes. Allow yourself to interact with your internal experience of this reality, here and now, in this space. Take note of your current felt internalized energy status. Take note of what your felt sensations are. Breath, your heartbeat, and sensory awareness of the space around you and those people around you. What do you notice?
does your unique internal construction shape the experience of the
finally, as the sequence comes to a close, allow your eyes to stay closed for a moment, long enough to notice again where you are, what your felt sensations are, and what you notice now.
Thank you, and we hope to see you at our next session.
We're just going to take a 20-minute break and then we'll be back at 9 o'clock.